the disappearances nobody wanted to believe. Before we begin, hit subscribe if you dare, because once you enter this story, you won't sleep the same again. It started like whispers in the humid Houston summer of 1971, boys vanishing without a trace. At first, nobody panicked. Houston was growing fast, a restless city pulsing with oil money and broken dreams. Police wrote most disappearances off as runaways. After all, they were teenagers, restless, wild, curious. But by the time the 10th boy vanished from the Heights neighborhood, people began to notice the pattern. They all had one thing in common. They were last seen near the same candy shop. Dean Corll's candy company had always been a friendly spot. Parents trusted him. Kids loved him. He'd hand out free sweets from a glass jar, smiling like any neighborhood uncle. His mother said he had a good heart. No one questioned why a man in his 30s liked spending so much time around boys half his age. He was just kind. But kindness was only the mask. Behind that grin, something darker was growing. A secret that would one day horrify the entire city. Wayne Henley, a skinny 17-year-old from the neighborhood, thought Dean was just another cool adult who let him drink beer and crash on his couch. He had no father figure, and Dean filled that space. One humid evening, Dean asked him for a favor. There was a boy, he said, who needed a little scare. He'd pay Wayne to bring him over. Easy money. Wayne didn't question it until the door locked behind him. A few blocks away, a mother named Dorothy Hill stood by her phone, waiting. Her son Billy hadn't come home. He'd gone out with friends to the corner store around dusk, just before the summer sky dimmed into a bruised purple. That was 3 days ago. She'd filed a report, but the officer barely looked up from his paperwork. Probably ran off to California, he said. Dorothy refused to believe that. Her boy was polite, careful. Something was wrong. Across town, an officer named David Mullins couldn't shake a pattern he'd noticed on missing person files. All teenage boys, all from the same few blocks, all vanishing between 7 and 10 p.m. He started mapping it on a wall in his office. When he drew a circle around the area, the center point landed on one address: 2020 Lamar Drive, Dean Corll's small white bungalow. Mullins didn't know it yet, but that house wasn't just the center of his map. It was the center of a nightmare. And when he finally knocked on that door one August night, the smell from inside told him he'd found something he was never meant to see. The house of sweet lies. The night Officer Mullins knocked on Dean Corll's door. Houston's humid air clung heavy against his skin. He had no warrant, just a gut feeling and a stack of missing posters he couldn't ignore. When the door creaked open, Dean appeared calm, polite even, his pale blue eyes catching the porch light like glass. "Evening, officer," he said smoothly. "Everything all right?" Mullins forced a thin smile. "Just following up on a few reports. Some local boys been missing lately. Thought I'd check around." Dean shrugged. Kids these days, they don't like rules. Probably hitched out to California. The lie rolled off his tongue like sugar. Inside, the place smelled faintly of bleach and something else, something metallic. Mullins's eyes drifted across the living room. A couch, beer cans, and a large wooden board with leather straps leaned against the wall. Dean noticed his stare and chuckled. "We make candy molds here. Gotta strap him down to dry," he joked. Mullins nodded, pretending to believe it, but something deep in his gut told him to remember that board. 2 nights later, 17-year-old Wayne Henley stumbled into a neighbor's house, shaking and pale. He'd been drinking, but fear made him sober. "He's dead," Wayne whispered. "Dean's dead." The neighbor blinked, confused. "Who's Dean?" Wayne's voice cracked. "The candy man." Police arrived within minutes, sirens cutting through the quiet dawn. Inside Corll's small home, the scene was chaos, blood, restraints, and tools no candy maker should ever own. In the back room lay Dean Corll himself, shot 6 times in the chest. Wayne kept repeating the same phrase. He was gonna kill me next. At the station, detectives pressed Wayne for hours. His story came out in pieces, trembling, broken. Dean had been luring boys for years. He promised parties, alcohol, and cash. Then, once they were inside, he'd tie them to the board, gag them, and do things too vile for Wayne to speak aloud. When it was over, he'd bury them in rented boat sheds, covered by dirt and concrete. "There's more," Wayne finally said, voice hollow. "There's a lot more. You'll find them in the sheds." By sunrise, officers were at a storage yard on Silver Bell Street. The first shovel of dirt revealed a shoe, then a hand. Within hours, detectives unearthed 3 bodies. Days later, they found more dozens. Each discovery turned the city colder. Parents gathered outside the police line, clutching photos and praying they wouldn't recognize a shoe, a shirt, a necklace. For years, Houston had believed these boys were runaways. Now the truth was rotting beneath their feet. But the most chilling part wasn't what they found in the ground. It was what they didn't find. There were more names on the list than bodies in the dirt. And one of Dean's helpers had disappeared. The faces beneath the dirt. By the time the third boat shed was opened, the air around Silver Bell Street reeked of decay and disbelief. Reporters from across the country swarmed Houston, their cameras flashing against the muddy ground as officers carried out body after body in black bags. Each new discovery felt like another betrayal, not just by Dean Corll, but by a city that hadn't listened soon enough. Parents who had been dismissed, mocked, or ignored now watched as the truth surfaced in pieces of bone and torn fabric. Detective Mullins hadn't slept in 3 days. His shirt was damp with sweat, and his eyes red from exhaustion. Yet he couldn't stop digging, literally and figuratively. Every time a shovel hit something solid, his chest tightened. "That's another one," an officer whispered, voice shaking. Mullins would nod, write down another name, and move to the next spot. What haunted him wasn't just the number of victims. It was the precision. Each body buried in neat rows, wrapped carefully, as if Corll had cataloged his horrors like trophies. Meanwhile, Wayne Henley and David Brooks, Corll's other teenage accomplice, sat in separate interrogation rooms, their stories overlapping in chilling detail. They described how Dean would lure boys from parties, arcades, and convenience stores. He'd charm them with smiles, candy, or promises of money. Once inside his small white bungalow, the mood shifted. The board came out. The music got louder to muffle the screams. Henley claimed he was just following orders, terrified to disobey Dean. Brooks said nothing for hours, just stared at the floor, whispering one name after another under his breath. As the days passed, more graves emerged, 17, 21, 25, then 27. Some victims were never identified, their remains too far gone. Houston's newspapers ran front-page stories, calling Dean Corll the Candyman killer, the monster who had lived among them. Mothers wept on live television. Churches held vigils. But beneath the grief was anger. Anger that the police had ignored the signs for years, writing off missing boys as runaways. Mullins knew it too. Every headline felt like an accusation. The investigation revealed that Corll's charm was his camouflage. He had coached Little League games, attended church picnics, and even invited parents into his candy shop. Everyone thought he was harmless, but in his world, innocence was bait. He manipulated broken teenagers, turning them into hunters for his own twisted pleasure. Wayne Henley confessed that he had lured at least 6 victims himself. "He promised me a car," Wayne said softly. "He said it'd be the last time." It never was. When the final grave was uncovered, the official count reached 28 known victims, though detectives believed there could be more, still hidden in unmarked soil. The city of Houston would never be the same. The neighborhoods once filled with laughter now felt hollow, haunted by memories of missing posters and false hope. The candy company shut down. The white bungalow on Lamar Drive was bulldozed, but the scars stayed. In his final report, Detective Mullins wrote, "Evil does not wear a mask. It smiles, it helps, it fits in. And by the time you recognize it, it's already inside your home." Dean Corll's name became a warning in criminal history, a symbol of trust betrayed and innocence devoured. Henley and Brooks were sentenced to life in prison, their testimony serving as the only roadmap to the horror they helped bury. Years later, when new construction crews dug near the old storage lots, workers claimed they found small bones mixed in the dirt. Police tested them quietly, away from the press. No one ever released the results. Houston had learned to live with ghosts, But somewhere beneath the foundations of that booming city, the Candyman's story still lingered, a reminder that the scariest monsters don't hide in the dark. They smile at you in daylight. If you thought the story was disturbing, the narrator's voice fades, low and cold. You're not ready for what's next. Subscribe and step deeper into the shadows.